This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Mike Sedita.
Hello out there. Welcome to episode 116 of the Good Neighbor Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sedita, and I am joined today by the founder and president of All of the Above LLC, Melissa Olsheski. Melissa, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Mike. How are you today?
I am doing pretty good. I cannot complain. I am just here hanging out and trying to get through the end of October and hopefully on to Thanksgiving time when I could start to eat again and fill my stomach up with terrible, unhealthy food that puts me to sleep. But
that time of year.
In the meantime, I'm not sure if you're exactly familiar with what the Good Neighbor Podcast is or how we got started or why we do what we do. But essentially, the Good Neighbor Podcast was started in 2020 as a way for business owners, community sponsors, people that are doing philanthropic things in the neighborhood to get their message out during COVID when we had to be socially distant. Right. And over the last 3 years, the Good Neighbor Podcast has evolved into a national podcast. We have podcasts in Colorado and Georgia and Virginia and all along the East Coast. I'm fortunate enough to be the person here in Tampa that gets to talk to business owners and entrepreneurs like yourself. So with that being said, tell us a little bit about All of the Above.
All right. Well, All of the Above it's actually also a COVID project of mine. All of the Above LLC is my personal empowerment coaching practice. So it is a life empowerment coaching, like I said, practice that focuses on emotional energetic healing. So there are a lot of life coaches out there, and we are actually not a licensed profession. So there are many, many, many different certifications you can get as a life coach. But mine in particular is a mental health support practice. Yeah, I'm not a psychologist. We're not psychologists, but I am a mental health support practice, which assists people in not just coping, but also healing. There's a lot of life coaching out there that is very much, goal setting based and elevating your desires to meet those goals and aspirations that you have, breaking down dreams down to goals, doing a lot of time management, money management, that type of skills-based work. Empowerment coaching is a little bit different because it brings us down to kind of the emotional level of what are the reasons why we may or may not excel at what we're doing. So that's what All of the Above LLC is about. Its name came from the fact that none of us are just one thing. We're multi-talented and multifaceted, and with God, we can do all things. And we are not just one thing. We are all of the above. So that's what All of the Above stands for.
Okay, so emotional, energetic healing. I'm assuming when you take on a new client, there is kind of an eval period or a questionnaire, or they're checking off, hey, look, where are you at? Where do you want to be? Is that kind of the starting point, the baseline point?
Absolutely. The very first part of what I do is I offer complimentary discovery sessions because there are so many of us in the coaching business. Not every person is for every coach. Not every coach is for every person. So the first thing I do is I offer discovery sessions, which are just conversations with people. They might find that they're stuck in some place in life and they want to achieve something. And so we get to have a little chat and see if we're a good fit for one another. As far as emotional energetic coaching, I do, it kind of meshes some Eastern and Western philosophies and how we approach getting to know ourselves and understanding how we think and why we think that way, so we can dig a little bit deeper into what might be getting us stuck so that we can move from where we are to where we're going.
So, you said a minute ago, this isn't really like there's no licensure to be able to be in this field. So tell us a little bit about your specific journey. Like, how do you, were you the girl on the playground when all your friends were having a problem that they came to you and they would say, oh, Billy pulled my hair, and you would say, it's going to be okay. Let's look at your energetic healing, and we'll shift your energy to the slide instead of this. Like, were you always that person, or like, how did you evolve into this to get where you're at?
So thank you for asking that. Yes, surely I was definitely one of those people. However, my education is actually in sports medicine. It's in exercise science, and I had minors in psychology and health. And then I went on to do graduate work in wellness education. And so I always had a real passion for understanding performance psychology. I was a peer counselor in college, and I was always an exercise specialist and a trainer. So I was always interested in helping human performance. And so as a trainer and a coach in the fitness realm, I always enjoyed that. What makes one person rehabilitate quicker than another? Is it body? Is it mind? Is it spirit? Is it attitude? What is it that helps somebody rehabilitate? So that was always a passion of mine. And then once I began in my professional career, began in athletic training, working with athletes, outpatient rehab, as well as intercollegiate athletics. And so I just always enjoyed that. Once I started having children, I went into my first entrepreneurial role. I started my own Mary Kay business at the time. That's been a 17-year journey, and developed into leadership roles within the direct selling industry. So did a lot of business coaching, which ended up being a lot of life coaching for the women who were trying to excel in direct sales. So I began in fitness and wellness in the physical sciences. I worked into more of the emotional sciences, and loved my time when I was doing corporate and commercial fitness management, but also people management. So that kind of all brought me to a place where back about 3 years ago, I loved what I'd been doing, but I wanted to move beyond just the one company I was in. And I knew what I was doing as far as assisting people and kind of achieving what their personal goals were. I knew I could help people, not just who were within my company, but beyond. And so that's where all of the above came from. So that now I have fewer limitations within a specific realm, and I'm able to help more people, throughout the community and beyond.
So let me ask you this. So what would be one of the, okay, listen, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've built businesses for years. I've built very successful businesses. Mm-hmm. Every time I see a business coach or a life coach, mm-hmm. I question, and again, it's just me. I always question, what credentials does this person have to tell me how to build a business? Have they built a business? Have they done this? So my question to you is, do you run it? Because that is kind of like you just said there's no licensure for this. I could literally tomorrow start out and say, hey, I want to be a business coach and do that stuff. So do you run into a lot of people that have that same, you've clearly built a business, so you have that experience. Do you run into people that are skeptical like I am of that, going into it and saying, hey, and how do you overcome that? Other than just giving your bona fides, how do you overcome it?
Well, I love that you asked that, because I am, maybe still am, I was one of those same people, very conscientious. And being in fitness for years, much like personal training, which is an unlicensed profession, but you can get certified through many different organizations.
Right.
Within fitness industry, I've always been in an industry that is an unlicensed profession, except for when I was an athletic trainer. I was a licensed athletic trainer out of school for about 10 years of my career.
Wait, what was that? Go back again. You were a licensed what?
So athletic trainer, and athletic trainer, yes, is a licensed profession.
Yeah, right, because you can go through all the different credentials to get your designations, etc.
Exactly. That's a true licensure, healthcare licensure, but personal training is not. And so you can have someone come right out of school who with no experience, and they are a personal trainer at the Crunch Fitness, just like someone with a PhD in exercise physiology. And so to me, it's always been kind of an underlying, and to be honest, when I was kind of called spiritually to start all of the above, the last thing I wanted to ever call myself was a life coach, because I was like, everybody and their brother calls themselves a darn life coach. Is that really what I'm supposed to be doing? But the truth is, when I do run into that question, which happens, and you should be able to answer it well, is yes, you have to go through your credentials, and you also have to connect with that person, because like I said, you could be credentialed all day long and not be a good match for your client, or you could have very little credential other than perhaps a experience, or even an instinctual or spiritual level of being able to assist other people and be a great match for your client. So it's the coaching practice I run is very client-centered, And once we're able to get to know each other, you need to have some credential, you need to have some confidence. And for me, that was very important getting into the life coaching industry. I wanted a good, solid credential. The program I was in specifically was about an 18-month program, 15 hours a week. So I really needed for myself to feel I had a strong credential within the industry before I could even start. But yes, there's definitely opportunity for people to question credibility. It's just nothing new to me because I've always been in fields like that, and you have to kind of prove yourself as you go through and make
Well,
yourself.
I would think, I mean, the reason I asked that question, and I'll tell you the reason how I got to that question. Okay. So I'm already very skeptical of everything, period. That's just where I was raised and how I was raised, whatever that is. That's a deep embedded psychoses issue that I talk about with my therapist, let alone a life coach.
Right.
But I'm not going to give any initials of a networking group that I'm familiar with, that I've attended. Okay. One of the people in one of these particular groups that meets weekly had 3 different seats at one point in this group and ultimately landed on being a life coach. And, you had a seat in this group for a specific, classification.
Right.
That didn't work out. You switched it to a second classification. That didn't work out. And then it was the third or the fourth classification. Now you're a life coach or a business coach. How could I possibly have any faith in your ability to be my business coach when you've had 3 other iterations of some sort of business and they didn't work out? So that's where that skepticism comes from, so that's led to the whole question. But having the answer, which clearly you did, and the credentials makes the hugest difference. That's why I was curious how, you just basically say, listen, bona fides and mic drop and be like, this is how I do it and whatever. So
that's right. It's a very honest and it's a very intelligent question, because anybody that is about to embark on any kind of personal journey with a stranger, they need to feel comfortable. And I really do believe to make a decision to have someone assist you in any way in business or in personal life, there is an interconnection between having, knowledge for the customer, having knowledge, but also having a trust. And there's an intuitive side of that. And that's something I get to do in empowerment coaching as well. I do discuss body, mind, and spirit. And a lot of times, spiritual, and when I use, spirit, it's in a broad perspective, but a lot of people don't are uncomfortable with whatever you want to call it, intuition, gut, spirit, whatever that entity is and how they define it. It can be an uncomfortable conversation, but it can also be something that limits one in being able to perform and heal in different ways in their business. And that's one of the ways that I feel like I stand out differently than some typical, life coaches. And again, that's the comfort between the client and me, and if we're the right fit for one another.
Well, that's anything, right? There's the whole thing. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? And we hear that over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
It's one thing in business, right? You offer a service. I need that service. There's 100 people that offer the service you offer. Why do you go with one person over another? A lot of times it's price, but a lot of times it's, I have a level of comfortability with you as a human being. Correct. And they're buying you. They're buying your personality. They're buying your interaction. Get that? It's a totally different level when you're talking about a life coach, because now I'm not just trusting you with, hey, here's my QuickBooks and here's my P&L and here's this, that, and the other. Now I'm trusting you with emotional, I'll use me. I won't put it on your guys. My emotional instability or my emotional scarring that I might bring over a lifetime of 51 years that I need some guidance from somebody. So there's a vulnerability that goes into that. So if there's not that level of trust, and that's why I asked the first question was, I'm sure there's an intake where you have to kind of say, you're here and we want to be here, and how do we bridge that gap? So there has to be that connection. There has to be that communication. There has to be trust. It's a relationship, but not just hey, I see you on Wednesday or Thursday morning, and then we go our separate ways, or we get together for a one-to-one meeting and have a conversation. It's a little bit more evolved than that, and that's super important. So making that connection, and I understand you do a great job with that. I've seen you kind of in action in some stuff. So let me ask you this though. Part of being able to make that connection with people is being very well rounded. Obviously, you have the physical side of it, the training and all that. What do you do for fun? What are some of the other things that you do outside of your work that helps you to connect with people? Do you crochet? Do you ride a Harley? Do you skydive? What is your broad background that helps you connect with people?
Not exciting, nothing that exciting, I would say. But no, I'm lifetime into fitness and wellness. So you'll find me at the beach. I've actually had to learn to slow myself down and calm myself down in my later life because
I got a life coach.
I'm gonna yes. So I can't tell you how often I coach myself, and then
I bet.
Yeah, those skills come in handy. But
so what fitness is going on the beach? You said I'm in a lifetime of fitness, and the first thing you say is the beach. That's leisure.
Okay, well, you're getting personal here. No, you'll find I will do yoga on the beach.
Okay, all right, just checking. Wanted to see.
My run. You'll either find me in a gym or you'll find me chilling out at the beach. I've had a new love. I know it might sound funny to some, but I have alternative fitness exercises. I've actually been in pole sport for 2 years now. Just finished a national.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Getting bigger, and after years in fitness, that was a fun new way to both dance and to get sport in. I am a Zumba instructor. I still instruct on the side, so I love all of that stuff. And
wait a minute. So we know what you do for fun. We know what you do for work. Kind of give us. I mean, your whole expertise is like overcoming. I mean, that is part of what you do. So, has there been a time in your life, personally, professionally, whatever, where you've run into some sort of challenge or a hardship that you've said, "Man, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this." How did you turn that around, and how did you get to where you're at now?
I'll tell you the number one most challenging time in my life, and this is I think the one thing it has developed me in many ways. I lost my mom at a very young age of breast cancer. She was 56 years old. I was 27 at the time, and she was, talk about a fun-loving, just amazing woman. But she was diagnosed at 50, and today I'm 50, and well, not today, my birthday, but I'm at the same age she was diagnosed at. So at that point in my life, that was obviously the toughest thing I'd ever gone through. However, she did have some health issues, and she did have some challenges with emotional health as well, as far as she'd had kind of a tough life. And so for me, anxiety, depression, having a hard time overcoming was something that I was always passionate about for myself, and then for helping others as well. So when you're faced with the loss of someone that's very important to you, grief, which is another amazing emotion on an emotional scale, the emotional scale that I work on, the map of empowerment that I work on as a coach, you really learn that you have a couple of choices in life. You either get to overcome, or you get to, or you choose to get stuck. So at the time when I lost her, I pulled myself into this kind of, I knew I was the woman of the house now. I knew that I was the woman of the family at a young age. I was the one that needed to be the matriarch at this point and to build my life around that. So losing her was a big part of my passion for health and wellness, and both emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. I'm very blessed because I was brought up with a really strong faith. And that is very helpful. When you lose someone, you know that life is still about the living. And so I always wanted to make sure that I was living a good, strong, positive life amidst life's hardships, because we all have those. The question is, how are we going to manage ourselves around those losses, around those hard times? And I was just very lucky. I had two parents that brought me up, that you can overcome anything and you can do anything you set your mind to. So I never had a question of faith, but I did have low times of coping. And so, as I faced the age she was at when she went through that challenge,
it's like a target.
It's crazy how you process that. But the way I'm processing it personally is that I have a whole bunch of life to live ahead of me that she didn't get to live. And so if I can live that life for myself, and I can teach others to live beyond the challenges that they've had in their life, That is what drives me as just a human and as a coach. And so really, she was just this hugely high influence on me personally and in my career choice and in my paths and even the way I take care of myself, love self, love others. She's just still a huge inspiration. And so, yeah, that's probably my biggest.
That's great. Do you have a lot of siblings?
I have one sister and one brother.
And you're the oldest?
My brother's older than me. My
You're the
sister's
matriarch.
older than me.
So, what's very funny is
I grew up with my sister, though. I grew up with my sister. I met my brother later on. Yeah,
Gotcha.
My sister.
So what's very similar in the regard of my dad was unhealthy, since I was a little kid, heart disease and all sorts of stuff. So I made a decision at around 29 because I was living unhealthy to change my life around. But I will tell you, losing a parent, the age is tough. I mean, I have friends that lost their mom and dad when they were younger. I lost my mom in the summer of 2020. I'm 51, so I was 49, 48 years old when my mom passed away. And it was still hard. It was still one of the, I literally moved my parents in with me. My ex-wife and I took care of my parents. My mom passed away from lung cancer. But watching a human being, so, there's two parts of it, right? You lost your mom early and she struggled. Cancer is a killer. It kind of eats away at people. Watching people you love deteriorate from that disease is just gut-wrenching, right? Like to watch that happen. But then on top of that, and losing her, I did go through like a period of, a little definite mental instability. It threw me. It definitely threw me. And then my dad recently passed away a few months ago. But my dad, he was 80 years old. He had injured himself. He had been in a wheelchair. He had some dementia. He had a whole bunch of stuff going on. And for him, it was almost a relief because he had been suffering for so long with all these different things that it was almost like it was a little bit of a relief when he passed. So, the way we handle that stuff and grow from it.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me is I look at it a little bit differently. I love what you said about, I'm living this day forward because this is the time my mom didn't get, and I'm making the most of it. I look at it from a different angle, and I say that, look, I'm 51, right? If I'm lucky, if all the tumblers align for me, now I could walk out of here now and get hit by a car, right? Everybody knows that.
Yeah, we all could.
If all the tumblers align, I got 30 trips left around the sun, 30. When you look at it that way and you see that clock ticking, it almost kind of makes you want to make the most out of it. Like, I don't want to just sit and do it. So the biggest thing I take from it, and I'm sure this is kind of a thing you do with your folks, is that in that 30-year window, life is too short to focus on the negativity that can surround us. If you watch the news, if you watch anything that's going on, you go to Facebook group, a Wesley Chapel Facebook group can get you into such a negative mindset like that, right? And we all are susceptible to it. It's just a matter of turning that thinking around and realize, like, this is the only life I have. I'm going to enjoy it, do the best I can with it. Am I going to screw up? Yeah, I'm going to screw up. I'm a human being. But if I'm not intentionally trying to hurt people and trying to live right, the karmic cosmic universe plays much well. I play much more well in that cosmic universe than the other way around with vendettas and hate.
You've got to be really intentional about what you feed your mind, what you feed your time with, who you spend time with, what you're listening to, what you're thinking about, being able to really switch your thinking on a dime if you find something come into your head that doesn't allow for productivity. And then sometimes you also have to allow yourself whatever emotion you are feeling so that you can process through it.
Through it. Yep.
And that's kind of what emotional energetic coaching is about as well. There's no wrong or right emotion. There's no bad or good emotion. There are a lot of emotions that we identify as negative emotion. Anger is a negative emotion. It's actually a very productive emotion. Anger is what is the
motivator.
The first motivator to go beyond where you're at. It's an incredible emotion. But we learn in our day and age, we learn to put our emotions aside and move forward, which is what a lot of life coaching is about. And that's why I like the empowerment coaching, because it allows you to process through an emotion so that you are no longer triggered by something in the past that now you're re-experiencing in the present, because then you're just re-experiencing something that may have been traumatic versus being able to say, hey, there's something that I've experienced and look at me, I'm re-experiencing it that way, but I no longer need to do that because it's no longer in the present moment. I can actually switch my thinking on that. I can live with whatever thoughts and emotions I've had. I can understand them, but they don't have to keep me where I'm at anymore. I can actually, and that's where true healing resides. It resides in being able to re-experience a similar thing to what has hurt us in the past, without it bringing us into the past. We can still stay where we are, and we can still move forward with where we're going. And so it's very delicate, but it's a pretty powerful thing to be able to have some true healing.
Well, so then let me ask you this, as we start to wind this down a little bit, is what would be the biggest thing when someone is thinking about going to somebody as a life coach, a business coach, and kind of going to something like all of the above? Mm-hmm. Would you say, like, what's the differentiator? Because what I hear, okay, and then you could kind of put your stamp on, but what I hear is it's a way to actually take in the things that are going on with you, process them thoroughly so that you can exhaust that feeling and not just suppress it. So when that feeling happens again, it's not like ripping open a scar. It might be a little scratch of the scar, realizing, oh, that scar, that's an old scar. I don't need to rip that open again and get through it. Like, that's the thing I'm hearing about the way you help people process. But is there something that you want people to know about what you do that differentiates you from everybody else that's out there?
Yeah, I would say if there's one thing, and it's like you were saying before in business, we can have a lot of different people we could call on for services, and there are a lot of AC people. There are a lot of, you name it. There are a lot of people who do what we do. My both personal and professional philosophy is that there has to be an appreciation of self. In order to have an appreciation of self, you need to understand yourself, understand what you've been through, understand what you are desiring. There are a lot of people that can't even identify their own emotions. And so if I can come in and help them just identify, what exactly is it that we're feeling? What exactly is it? And so for me personally, self-appreciation, self-love is the basis for the way I interact with my clients. It's not necessarily about just getting to the goal. It's about the process with which how we get there. And so I'm a very process-oriented person. And I do believe there's a level of, how do you say it? There's a level of gift that I'm thankful for, that I've been able to help people in this way. And, none of us are perfect as professionals, but to me, if I have a client that can, complete their work with me, knowing that they are this incredible person that they didn't realize that they were because of what they've learned versus what their gut knows about themselves, then I have done a really great job. My tagline is helping people uncover, discover, and recover the power within, because the power is already within us anyway. It's a matter of identifying who we really are, what we really stand for, and what makes us cry, what makes us work, what brings us joy. That's the stuff that's going to enable us to have great performance at work or in family or within relationships. So what's different, and what I'd like people to know about what I do, is that I have a really strong desire to help people see the greatness in themselves, not just in what they do, but in who they are. And that really is the greatest gift I feel I can give to other people.
And what's the best way? If I say if someone's listening, they're saying, hey, look, I need to make this change in my life, how do they get a hold of you?
So my website is bealloftheabove.com. And I do obviously offer one-on-one coaching sessions, but I also have workshops, one soon to be now an online workshop. I do speaking engagements, and in the future, I have a book tour coming up, and I have women's retreats that I'll be putting on in this upcoming year. I have a merch site on that website. All the description of my coaching and services is on there. And so if you visit the website, you can connect to my blog, you can connect to my services, book a discovery session. So that's all a great way to
Do you want to give out your phone number, or you just want to send people all to the website?
Yeah, my phone number is 813-368-3309. Again, it's bealloftheabove.com. Everything is on there to explain what All of the Above has to offer.
So guys, if you're listening to this podcast, watching it on YouTube or listening to it on Facebook or wherever you're taking it in, the big thing that I'm taking away from this is Melissa is going to spend some time with you and figure out where you're at, where you want to go, help to identify some of the things that you have going on in your life or patterns that may have happened in your life, and how to get to the root cause of those so that you can move past them and not just suppress them. Uncover, discover, and recover to be able to get back to where you need to be, to take your business to the next level, to take your interpersonal relationships to the next level. You can go to bealloftheabove.com to find out more information, or contact her at 813-368-3309. Melissa, thank you for being a good neighbor, and thank you for being on the Good Neighbor podcast. You have a great day.
Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Passcode. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnppasco.com. That's gnppasco.com, or call 813-922-3610.